Next, we have a live demo on DevOps toolchain session, the most awaited session of the day. And this is followed by the prize distribution. I would invite Alex Mohr and his team to start the presentation. Yep.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here back again. I just talked to Amit and told him I came here to Bangalore the very first time 2 years ago. I met Vaibhav the first time 2 years ago. At this time, Tricentis was 4 people working here. We had a small office, and our very first talk was in front of 25 people. To see today all of you here, passionate for test automation, is nothing but awesome. It's groundbreaking. Do you know who was also groundbreaking? Galileo Galilei in the 17th century. He discovered, better, he proved. Do you know what he proved? People at this time believed that the Earth is the middle of the universe and the sun rotates around the Earth. So Galileo proved that it's the other way around. The sun is in the middle and the Earth rotates around the sun. Do you think that innovation was appreciated in the 17th century? 23 years later, the Catholic Church condemned Galileo and forbid the holocentric worldview. Fortunately for us, we live in the 21st century, where we live, where we breathe, where we foster innovation. Still, when I talk about how a modern agile software lifecycle looks like, I encounter too many doubts and too many disbelief. And the good thing is, today we can prove innovation. So, how does a typical, ideal agile lifecycle looks like? Teams are set up with the PO, with development and test. The PO aligns with business and defines the user story. What should be implemented? He creates the user story, for example, in Jira. Once the user story is created and the sprint starts, development and test works together. They start together. Development starts coding, and test creates test artifacts. API, service virtualization, typically first, to provide immediate support, immediate testability to the developer. Once the user story is finished, and the definition of done says a user story is finished when dev and test is finished, the code gets checked into a versioning system, could be GitHub, for example. A CI server, at the next step, Jenkins, would take the code, trigger the compilation, and deploy the code to, or the component, to a virtual server or to a virtual machine. Once the component is deployed and configured, test starts. We provide here the ability to do full sandbox test. What does that mean? Each component, each team can be tested completely autonomous without the need of third-party applications. We test on UI, we test on API level, and with a service virtualization, we simulate all surrounding system, overarching by a test data management which can be used from both parts. Once the application is tested, verified, then the component gets deployed to the next stage where end-to-end tests are executed. In enterprise environments, there comes an additional layer of complexity. And you heard today about the different kind of levels already, which is system of engagements, the customer-facing touchpoints, a web application, a native app, the system of processing, which typically are in the middle, like an enterprise service bus or an order processing system, which stores and orchestrates the order. And the backend system, the system of record, the systems which carry the data, which do a billing, SAP, S4HANA, Salesforce. These are the system of record. Imagine now we have a very simple change. Business always says, just one field. This can't be so difficult, right? So imagine we want to add one field, which is a middle name, because our application just has a first name and a last name. So what do we need to test? We need to test our web application, our native app, our order processing system, our SAM, our rating. We need to test everything. And we need to wait for all the applications to be available. Instead of waiting for all the applications to be available, we want to start efficient testing, shift-left testing. How do we do that? We transform the test into several stages and start with the system test. The system test is a test where we do not have any dependencies. We focus on the application itself. In a web application, for example, field validation, menu structure. In a billing system, this could be also a billing routine. We create in Tosca already the first modules, which reflects the technical representation of UI or of API, and we can reuse those modules in the next stage, where we do efficient system integration testing. The system integration testing can be simulated. It's simulated via API, via UI, and again via service virtualization. And when you use service virtualization, you can transform and hand over the service virtualization artifact into API tests. This is called contract testing. The contract is the definition, the interface definition between service client, service provider, meaning between a web app and an order processing system or a CM system. By using this interface definition contract and creating API and service virtualization, both artifacts can be tested independently and again reused for an efficient end-to-end test. Service virtualization still can be used in case one of the components is delayed, what almost never happens. Does anybody know our insurance app, our vehicle insurance app? Let me walk you through the process. Step one, we retrieve data from a vehicle, from a car configuration system. On the second page, we retrieve data from a CRM, if the customer is available, and store and save the data back to the CRM. On the third page, we do a rating based on the customer. Then we hand over the data to an order processing system. Our back office will review the order, confirm, and send it to S/4HANA, to SAP. Because you can't see API tests, we have a kind of administration console, which will show you the logs every time we execute an API test. Our agile team will show you and will walk you now through such a full life cycle. We will demonstrate the end-to-end test flow and show the application how this interacts, and the full power here of end-to-end tests. We will add a user story in Jira and see how this is coming to Tosca, how we synchronize it. Development starts coding, and test immediately starts adopting test artifacts, UI, API, test case design. We will also see here how easy and redundant-free we can do manipulations. You will see the benefits of collaboration and running a smoke test, and maybe we will find the defect. Let's see. Check in the changes and run a full unattended test execution over different stages, system integration, and so on.
Before start our walkthrough of E2E application, let us quickly jump into Tosca in the test case folder. As you can see here, this is the best practice followed by the Tricentis for the test case folder. The first folder is precondition. All the necessary application start needs, these steps are included in the precondition. The second is process folder. All the business steps are included in the process folder. Verification steps are included in the verification folder. And the application throughout the flow, all the necessary application needs to be closed. These steps are included in the post condition folder. Now, let us run our E2E flow for the walkthrough. Here, it's required the license, Tosca license. It initializes the component. The first step is launching the Tricentis monitor. It's going to start to launch the monitor. Yeah, as you can see, this is the Tricentis monitor. This is the administrative console application, which is responsible for the start the UI as well as the backend system. We cannot see the API testing, so we log each API call in the logger section. So the first step is for our E2E flow, it's click on the E2E sprint 1, then start to open our URL. As you all see, this is the version 1.1 our application. So it's click on the automobile, fill the data. On the right section, you can see the car services log, the CRM services call, as well as the rating service also call. We fill all the data, select the product data, then quickly fill the send data. It's click on the send code button, it's generate a unique order ID. We can verify the unique order ID with the help of order backend office system desktop application. We can verify it and click to submit to SAP. Here we interact to SAP HANA, SAP Fury to send all the data into SAP HANA. Here we open the SAP HANA, log in it, and search the currently generated order ID with the help of search icon. Yeah, we can here search the order ID, click on it, and active the insurance detail. This is our walkthrough of the first version of our application end-to-end.
Easily execute a full end-to-end test flow. Now we start our sprint where we'll add the user story, and we'll add the user story in Jira.
So let's say we get a new business requirement which says add middle name field in insurance data screen. For this requirement, let's create the user story. So I am going to my Jira. I am creating the user story. I am adding the summary, insurance page, add middle name. I am adding this description. I am assigning it, and then I am linking it to my Epic. Now my user story is created. In the background, there is a technical connection between Tosca and Jira using TaskTop. So in the world of DevOps, it is always important to synchronize your data in a faster way. Using TaskTop, we can achieve that pace. Using TaskTop, we can easily synchronize our epics, user stories, and defect to the different section of Tosca. So let's see how it looks inside Tosca. So I am doing the update all to get the latest changes. And I can see that my user story is created as a requirement inside Tosca. So now my developer and my tester can start their work.
We have created the user story, we have synchronized it to Tosca, so later we can assign it, so we can track the status of the test execution. Now it's time to start the sprint. Development and test will start its work.
So a new requirement has come to add a middle name. As a developer, the typical issue which I face during my development is I do not have surrounding environments available. So often I am implementing UI changes, but I do not have service which is going to consume my request and provide a response. So Tosca testers help developers while working together in the new agile world by creating virtualization with OSV and API modules. So back to the requirement of a middle name. So let's implement UI changes first. So here in this file, you can see there is a first name, there is a last name. So we need to add middle name over here. So just like a smart developer, I will copy it. I will paste it over here. So I am changing label to middle name. ID to middle name. And name to middle name. So just like UI changes, I have accumulated all other changes and kept them ready, as you can see here. So let's commit the changes. So I am adding the commit message that middle name, change implemented. And I push code to the GitHub. Yeah.
Step 1, our developer has adopted its code and pushed the code to GitHub. Now test will modify test artifacts.
Yeah, let's move on to Tosca and see what changes we need to make. So as you can see, all our test artifacts are under version control and we are connected to GitHub. Now, let's see which are the impacted areas. So we have got a component-wise folder structure here. We have got web app, we have got CRM, rating, and order services which are impacted. So we need to modify the test artifacts for all of these. So adding a middle name appears to be a small change, but there are multiple artifacts which need to be updated. So let's start with the test case design first. So as you can see, we already have a test case design for SIT web app. We need to adopt the middle name changes in this TCD. Now the middle name field will be used across multiple TCDs. So it would be appropriate to create a middle name class. We have a folder here for insurance data. This folder contains all the classes which are used for this insurance data. So we will create a middle name class in this folder. And add our test instances to this class. So let's say we are adding a first instance and just a couple of more instances. And the last empty instance. So whenever we want to send across an empty value, we would use this instance. Yeah. Now we have got an insurance class, as we saw earlier, which calls all the other classes comprising of the insurance data. Middle name also is a part of the insurance data. So we will now add the middle name class in this insurance class. We'll move this middle name class between the first and last name for better readability. And just update all the values. So our insurance class has now adopted all the changes which are required for middle name. What this will do is ensure that all our TCDs are updated. Let's have a look and see if our TCDs have adopted this change. So you can see that the web app TCD has got this change. Similarly, the CRM TCD also has this change, and so has the merit rating and the other services. Now next step is updating the UI modules. So we already have a module for insurance data screen. We need to adopt the changes for middle name in this module. What we need to do is rescan this module. So let's first move to the latest code which is delivered by our developer. Let's launch the Tricentis monitor. Let's launch the web app UI. So we can see that the version has been updated to version 1.2, which is the latest version provided by the developer. So we'll click on Automobile and navigate to the insurance data screen. We can see that the middle name has been added. Now what we need to do is a rescan. So we'll move back to Tosca, right-click on the insurance data module, and click on rescan. Now we know that to achieve better automation rates, we need to use model-based test automation. Rescan is an important functionality which enables us to synchronize the application under test with the model created earlier. So you can see that Tosca will now automatically identify the screen which needs to be rescanned. All we need to do is select the middle name field on the application, add this field, click Done and save and exit. So you can see the middle name field has been added. So we will just move this middle name field between the first and last name, again for better readability. Now the UI modules have been updated. Let's move on to the creation of test cases. So we have got a test case template where we can see that the middle name changes have been incorporated. Let's add the TCD to this. So we'll just doctor TCD and tag the middle name field with the test case template. Yeah. Now all we need to do is reinstantiate our template instance folder so that the test cases get the middle name field updated. So you can see that the middle name field has been updated over here. So our web app UI test cases are now ready. Now we also have APIs to test. So let's first do the changes for TCD. But our TCD changes have already been done, as we have seen earlier. So we'll scan the modules. We'll move on to the CRM API. Now the code for API is not ready yet. However, we have got the XML definitions from our developer. We load that over here, and our modules will be updated. So we have got the CRM get person request over here. We load this. We can see that there is a middle name tag. We'll add it, and it will create the module attribute for middle name. We'll follow the similar process for the response API. So you can see the middle name is added over here as well. So we'll just add and create a module attribute. Now our API modules are ready. So just like our UI test cases, we'll create the API test cases. We also need to adopt these changes across all our modules. So I've already done this in a different workspace so that we are ready for execution.
We have adopted the appropriate test case design. We use a class system so that we can redundant-free inherit the changes from class, from the subclass to classes, and from the test case design, wherever we use in our area the insurance class, in other applications, changes get inherited, which again reduces any effort of modification. We have rescanned the UI models easily. We have updated our API and service utilization models, reinstanced test case design, and then we are ready to run a smoke test.
Now, as the development of the service is still in progress, and only UI is available to test, is it a blocker for a tester to test the UI functionality only? No, certainly not. The Tricentis Tosca provides a new feature called service virtualization, which will provide the necessary data to the UI field and generate our field. So we will, as you can see on the screen, the sequence flow diagram shows we have done all the necessary settings to run our OSC smoke test. So we will go to the smoke test and we will execute the execution list. So now what it will do, as the services are not available, the Tricentis monitor gets launched and you are able to see that only UI is available. As you can see, the services are not available. So it will navigate now, and also logger section is empty. So the service logs are not going to be displayed. So it will navigate to the automobile screen. It will fill out all the data, as you can see. It seems like our developer has done a good job as of now. So it will generate the code number as well. And it will close the browser along with the application as well. So our execution list gets passed. So it seems like our developer has done a good job. So let's look at the scenario details. Going to the OSV monitor. As you can, it is something red. So something has been mistaken by our true developer. So let's see in the scenario details. Yes, we have got the defect here. The middle name is missing. So we will go back to Tosca again. And we will synchronize the results from OSV monitor to Tosca. As synchronize the results, yes. And we will raise the defect from here. And we will do the check-in all as well, so that the defect will get raised in Jira as well. As you can see, it is asking for the GitHub credentials so that our test artifacts are under control of a GitHub. We will do the okay. So this is nothing but the shift left approach. As we got the defect very early in an early stage, and we have reported to the developer so that he can fix it very early.
We run a smoke test and we identify a defect early in the life cycle without all the applications available. Now it's time for the developer to fix the defect and run the full unintended execution.
Oh, I made a mistake in the code. So defect has been raised. So let's see what's gone wrong in the code. Okay, here in this JavaScript file, we can see that there is a first name, there is a last name. So a middle name is missing here. So let's add middle name over here.
Copy, paste.
So copy and paste. So change last name to middle name over here, or here, and for last time here. So let's commit the changes to the GitHub. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I am adding message defect has been fixed. Let's push the changes to the GitHub. And this push will trigger the Jenkins pipeline. Yeah.
We've checked in the changes, and now the Jenkins pipeline will take code and test and run our unattended test execution.
So the Jenkins pipeline. First two blocks in the Jenkins pipeline are build and deploy. Build and deploy. So what will happen here is each individual component of the application, like the web application, the desktop application, the services, will be individually compiled. They will be deployed and configured into their own dedicated environments. The purpose or the goal is to test them in silos during system testing and system integration testing. The next block is system testing. System testing is, as I said, testing each component in silos independently. In background right now what is happening is Jenkins is trying to connect to Tosca via Tosca continuous integration interface, which is Tosca CI. It will connect to Tosca, it will check the licenses, it will go to the workspace, traverse to the execution list, find out the execution list, take the test cases, and then it will execute the test cases one by one soon. In this set of system tests, we have taken two examples, a set of UI tests and a set of API tests. Soon, yeah, the Tricentis web monitor will start. We'll start with API tests. You will see soon the logger getting populated with our API calls. So the advantage with API testing is, again, the pace of testing is high. So as I'm speaking, there are around 50 test cases that are getting executed. If these were to be executed through UI tests, then even in an automated environment, it would have taken an hour or so. But we could do it in few seconds here. Then it will also test the UI that has been changed with the new requirement of adding middle name. It will go on the UI. As you can see, it's system test, so no service is available. We'll just test the UI. It will navigate to the insurance data page. It will test the middle name and the fields around that. Right now, it's checking the verification, whether the behavior that has been implemented is as expected. The next block is system integration testing. System integration testing is where communication and collaboration between different application components is tested. So again, shift left approach will be demonstrated here, wherein we'll be able to identify critical issues by doing testing much closer to the development.
And one of the additional advantages, is that we can use progression test as a regression test. What does that mean? Progression tests are tests which test the new functionality, and too often we see in agile teams that they are tested or created in one test tool. The regression is later when the user story is finished. Should the feature and the test should be added to the regression test, so then from then on it can be always tested. Here in Tosca we can set it up for progression test and then simply add the test cases to the regression test portfolio or the execution list.
Yeah. So two sets of SITs will be used. One is when you have your UI ready, but APIs are not ready, so you will use service virtualization to test the UI of the application which has been delivered, which which is currently happening. So UI is available, there are no services. Tosca will be able to test the UI with OSV, which is currently sending or will send pseudo intelligent responses to the UI so that the testing can continue. And yeah, as you can see, there's no logging, so there are no services that are being used, but we are still able to continue with UI testing. And the next set will be, so there's a misconception that back office system cannot be tested until the UI is ready, which will show can be done. We will use API testing to create the data. The data will then percolate to the back office and we'll be able to test the back office. So data has got created with API testing and we are able to test the back office even when the web UI was not available. So those are the two scenarios we covered in system integration testing. It's checking the data, doing the verifications. And the next block is flood test. Tosca flood is Tosca's load testing component. With Tosca flood, load testing can be part of your continuous integration and continuous testing flow. It is very necessary to have load testing very close to development because major design flaws can be identified earlier in your development rather than later in testing phase. So, yeah, flood test. In the background, what will happen is flood test will fire a query, and I'll just...
The additional benefit here is, and Wolfgang explained it already in the morning, is for flood test, we do browser level testing, so we reuse UI API test cases and transform them to a load test. And browser level means we start 1,000 little Chromes in a container, which executes a real interaction with the system on a test. You do not need to recreate any protocol level stack. You just let Chrome or Firefox, 1,000 of those, execute your test cases.
Yeah. Soon you will see a grid populating with, you can see the concurrent users, the response times, and all going on as part of your pipeline, being part of your continuous integration. Load testing being part of your continuous integration. In the background, the pipeline is continuing. Load testing will run parallel to your E2E tests. So, yeah, as you can see, the graph is getting populated where you see what is the load or how the application is behaving against load, variable load, the concurrent users, the response time, and so on. The next will be end-to-end testing. End-to-end testing is when we assemble all the components of the application into a single production-like environment, and we do a production-like testing on your consolidated environment. Another misconception is that we cannot do E2E testing until one of the components of your entire application is available. In enterprise applications, where there are many applications, it is we should be able to continue testing even if there is some small component being under construction. So with API testing and virtualization, you can still do that. You can continue the testing. Here we are assuming that all the systems are available.
Luckily, we have all systems available. And as you can see, right now our test is executed in Chrome browser. So here we also support the cross-browser functionality. Same wise, you can see the log is here, car service trigger, CRM service trigger, as well as the rating service also trigger. It's filled the data, generate a code number, the code number which will store in the DB, and verify with the help of order back office desktop application. Here we search it and interact with the ERP system like SAP HANA. And we send it the data to the SAP HANA. We open the URL of the SAP HANA, just log in into it, and search with the currently generated data in the SAP HANA. So it's now going to search. Yeah. And this, it active the insurance data. And it looks like how easily we adopt the middle name changes in our E2E fully pipeline.
I would say this is one of the most comprehensive continuous testing demos that I have ever saw. We have seen the full flow from creating the user story in Jira, starting coding, starting testing, creation, modifying of the test artifacts, running a smoke test, identifying a defect, checking the changes, and have a full unattended test execution. There's just one question we didn't answer. What happened to Galileo? It took the church 350 years to admit that Galileo was right, but it took us just a few years to make DevOps a reality. Thank you.
Thanks, Sasha and team, for the great presentation. Next, I invite Ingo Philipp to hand over the memento to the entire team.